My best friend read my life out loud to a crowd of strangers, and they got up and cheered for her. It's 12:41 a.m., and I'm lying on my kitchen floor, back pressed against the cabinets, knees tucked up, telling you the story as if I'm telling it in your ear from the passenger seat of your car after a night out. I'm not sure if I can even bring myself to say her name. Not because I'm protecting her, but just because when I say her name, I still remember second grade and sidewalk chalk and a red lunchbox. So I'll just call her Lena. Lena and I grew up on the same cul-de-sac where streetlights buzzed at night and summers smelled of hot asphalt and sunscreen. I arrived with her at age 7, clutching a stuffed otter and trying to be tough as a moving truck swallowed my entire world in cardboard. She had shown up in cut-off shorts, ponytail as crooked as she was, on a bike with a squeaky wheel for every turn. She offered me a handful of broken chalk. "You want the good colors?" I nodded. She gave me purple and blue, kept the small white nubs in her palm. "I'm Lena," she said, like it was the simplest thing in the world. We made a cockeyed hopscotch and played it together, hopping turns, and when I finally tripped and skinned my knee, she wiped the blood away with the hem of her t-shirt without flinching. "It'll scab sooner if you don't cry," she told me. I didn't cry. She smiled like I'd passed some test I'd never even known I was sitting for, and that was it. We were a team. All that from there had a beat, bumping knees under the tables at school cafeterias, braiding sleepover hair under the glow of a flashlight cutting into the blackness, telling secrets into pillowcases that smelled of dryer sheets. She ate at my home more nights than not, garlic bread charred and spaghetti sauce that always got too thick because I never stirred. My house was rowdy, always some pan clanging, some cousin dropping by, while hers was peaceful in this deliberate, purposeful way. Her mom folded towels like they were origami. Her dad rubbed his eyes when he read. Their silence wasn't off-putting, just not like mine. Lena liked our chaos. She once grumbled, half-stuffed with spaghetti, "It's like your house is breathing." I never do know why things catch on, but it did. We had a secret handshake with 6 moves and a pinky swear. We read entire episodes of The Office back and forth and argued over whether Jim should have come clean to Pam sooner. We sang off-key to Katy Perry with the windows down. Bare feet on the dashboard until my mom swatted them away laughing. We weren't perfect. We were jealous. We kept score on occasion. We made it through middle school with braces and crushes and pack sleepovers that always got weird at 1 a.m. because 14-year-olds can make silence into a weapon like no one else. But she was there the night I had to be braver than I knew how. I won't get into it all, but that evening included our kitchen filled with smoke, a door knock that felt like thunder in my bones, and a woman with a clipboard inquiring as to how many food products were in our refrigerator. Lena stood waiting for me on the front porch steps, knees tucked under chin, until I arrived home, and didn't depart until the house smelled like it was meant to once more, and the smoke alarm stopped yapping. She squeezed my hand so tight my knuckles still hurt, and for the first time I understood. Oh, perhaps everything doesn't crumble if someone has you grasping on. We matured that dumb manner time moves when you are content. High school was last-minute road trips to the gas station with slushies, tennis shoes squelching across the floor of the basketball courts when we snuck into open gym. Her making me get my hair short and then telling me I looked fantastic when I began crying at the mirror in the bathroom. She was the one who sat cross-legged on my bedroom floor and said, "Okay, what's our 5-year plan?" As if we were CEOs. On paper, Lena was a star. She ran cross-country with long, weary limbs, took AP everything, made debate, and always closed like she'd marinated the argument before you'd gotten a chance to say it. I wasn't a wreck, good grades. I worked weekends at the diner. I could talk my way out of anything if you provided me with a pen and a quiet place, but I didn't imagine myself as someone who craved a spotlight. It was fine. Lena's light never seemed like it took anything away from me. If anything, it curled up my edges. The shift was so subtle at first, I only catch on afterward. We were both standing in my kitchen, both of us slouched over laptops, looking up possible scholarships that did not require jumping 1,000 hoops. She read to me, write about a challenge and how you succeeded in overcoming it. Like every essay question ever written. She glanced up. "You should definitely write about, growing up the way you did." I laughed because you do that when somebody points at a bruise and says it like a compliment. "Yeah, trauma, but make it inspirational." "I'm serious," she said, softer. You're incredible, Ava." We can be referred to as Ava. "I mean, that night? When you..." She stopped the sentence short, tapping at her keyboard like punctuation. People need to hear that. She had that gaze in her eyes when she would say something like that, as if she was pulling on a string deep in the middle of my chest. It made me want to share everything with her. So I did. Maybe too much. I told her about the way the social worker's pen had snapped, the way the spaghetti sauce had burned up black at the bottom, and we'd had to ventilate the kitchen, the way my throat closed up, the way I know all the sounds that mean we're okay and all the sounds that mean we're not. I told her how I'd become super good at counting cans in the pantry without even knowing it was measurement of my mother's love. She took out a notebook she always carried with her and started writing. That was how she was, always writing quotes, thoughts, phrases of conversation. "This is for my creative writing class," she said to me when I raised an eyebrow. "We're doing sensory detail." She smiled. "You're like a gold mine." "I'm not a gold mine," I said to her, but I smiled as well. And then the small things. She asked to borrow one of my old notebooks because she liked the dotted paper. She asked me to describe how I would describe the hum of the fridge motor at night, which is so oddly particular I couldn't help but laugh and say, "Like a tired bee?" She laughed too and inscribed "tired bee" in the margin. 7 days later, when I asked to see her scholarship essay, she angled her screen away from me. "It's not ready," she said. "You'll dinks it." I was taken aback. We'd read each other's work, even the cringeworthy starting points. "Okay," I said, but something didn't feel right. I talked myself into being paranoid. We were overwhelmed, stressed, looking for money to make college not feel like some mountain to climb. She informed me that she was writing about her grandmother and the things that she'd tell her in the garden. She looked me straight in the face and said that. "I want you to hear this part." She lied so smoothly, and I timed her, and then I did what I do every time. I believed her because that's what loving her like family felt like in my body. The Caldwell Foundation Awards event was held in a hotel ballroom that felt like a prom has grown old and got a job. Round tables, white tablecloths, tiny battery candles flickering like they were actually trying to. The chicken breast was lemon and boring flavored. Parents smiled at each other across the room in that breathy, smug way people do when the lights are low and the mic is a little too close. Lena's mother ran her hand over my shoulder and said quietly, "You girls look beautiful, and I wish this to be the case." We sat together side by side. Her knee bounced under the table, and she continued to fold and refold her lap napkin. She looked like a ballerina pretending calm. "I think I got one," she whispered. "The resilient future one." "God, I hope so," I whispered back, squeezing her hand. And I did. I wished the universe to give her all the shimmering things. They yelled out her name, and my heart took flight like I was the one flying up. Lena stepped out on stage, hair glowing, and the MC read a bunch of words on remaining in there, and the room clapped with that sugary, collective joy when the person you love is doing great. She toyed with the mic. She breathed. And then she started to read. The night the smoke alarm shrieked, I tallied jars in our cupboard and prayed the woman with the clipboard could not hear my hands shake. I do not know, I believe my body took a complete 2 seconds to register the presence of my life leaving her lips. The essay was titled Inventory. She wrote of the spaghetti, the tired beef fridge, the noise of the click of the pen. She wrote about the mascara smudged under the social worker's left eye. She wrote about how our front door stuck in the humidity. She wrote of my mother's laugh, that isn't a compliment, even sharp, too loud, a little cracked like she'd somehow owned it. Each detail, as if a map I'd lived on I didn't know someone else was drawing in their book. I looked around at the tables, at people rubbing their eyes with napkins, at the principal shaking his head in understanding like, yes, this is what our students triumph over. I saw my English teacher's jaw open, and for a moment our eyes met. She knew. 2 parents on our block looked down because what do you do when you know a tale that doesn't belong to you being told as if it is? You pretend. You applaud with everyone else. Lena's tone was even, a little breathy as it was always when she was reading, and when she got to where she read, I learned to make lists so I could feel like there was something in my life that added up. My stomach turned over. She finished and the room stood. People stood for her. They stood for this story about me in her mouth. I clapped too, I didn't know what to do. My hands were clapping hands that belonged to someone else. When she came back to the table, her cheeks red, her eyes shining, she stooped down and hugged me so hard my chair wheeled back a little. She whispered in my hair, I did it, and then, so quietly I don't even know if I was supposed to hear, thank you. I sat there until my body does that thing where it becomes really hot or really cold and you're not sure if you're going to be sick. Then I excused myself to the bathroom. I stepped out of the ballroom and into the hallway where the carpet pattern hurt to look at and stared at the kind of mirror hotels think are flattering. I was not crying. I was just not in my face. I turned on the water and held cold palms to my cheeks. The automatic paper towel dispenser ejected a brown strip as if it were presenting me with a flag of surrender. She found me there. She closed the bathroom door softly behind her with its little guilty click and said, "Hey." What I said. Not loud, just flat wet. It's fiction, she said, immediately. Like, creative nonfiction. But it's not, Ava, I didn't use your name. I laughed. It sounded terrible. You wrote it in first person. Because that was the assignment. She held out her hands, palms up. I changed details. You omitted the spaghetti, I said. I have no idea why my mouth did that. You omitted everything that makes it mine. She breathed in and out deeply as if to return to the stage. Just look, I should have asked you. I know. I should have. You always tell me you don't want this part of yourself to define you. I thought if I told it, in a way that honored it. Your $5,000, I said. And your standing ovation. The paper towel in my hand was now soggy. I discarded it. You lied to them about having overcome something you didn't. That is not honoring anything. You thought I hadn't been there, she asked, and there was something bitter that flashed in her voice. You thought I wasn't pacing the steps of your porch worried that my own stomach would twist itself up? We made it through that together. The room spun around. We didn't. You didn't count my pantry. You didn't go to school the next day and pretend your feet weren't shaking in your shoes. You didn't care if there was going to be a note on the table when you walked in. I took a breath. My lips were numb. You were my best friend. You were there with me. But you are me. She took a tiny step forward. I thought you'd be proud. I looked at Lena, at the perfect eyeliner and birthday necklace I'd given her, and felt I was winking into smoke. You lied to my face, I said. About your grandmother. She bit the inside of her mouth. I freaked out. I knew you wouldn't approve. I knew you'd recoil from it like you recoil from everything that makes you complicated. That hurt. That was a low blow, and she knew it. She dipped her eyes. I'm sorry, she said. I am. I didn't realize it would hurt so much. It's such a ridiculous sentence now, as if watching a field catch fire and exclaiming, I didn't know that dry grass would catch fire. I left. I had nothing else to say. I walked by her and back out into the ballroom and out the side door into the damp night air, and I stood there in my dress, goose-bumped arms, as a group of dads smoked cigars 10 feet away and talked about tires or whatever dad thing. My phone called with my mom wanting to know where I was. I didn't answer. I drove home with the radio off, breathing like someone had to tell me how. The essay went up on the Caldwell website the next morning with her smiling headshot next to it. It got shared on Facebook by the town's news and notes group with a caption like, "So proud of our resilient youth." There were comments under it from familiar and unfamiliar people, messages saying Lena was strong and brave and an inspiration, and I sat on my bed scrolling until my thumb hurt, until the glow from my phone made my face a strange ghost shade. My aunt messaged me a screenshot with a heart. Lena. Wow. Give her a hug from me. The worst is that half the town didn't even realize it was my story. The other half did, and were not sure what to do with that bit of knowledge. There were double takes at the supermarket. There was a cashier who hesitated on handing me my change, like she was handing me something different. There were 2 sophomore year girls who messaged me as this, complete with side-eye emojis. I sent a smiley face via text and then turned my phone over and stared at a previously unseen crack in my ceiling. Lena called me 3 times. Please answer, her voicemails read. Please. Please. I love you. I want to make it right. I didn't know what making it right was. Return the money? Rewrite an essay I stole from my best friend, and here's why. There is no scholarship for that. I had responded once. She burst into it, words tumbling. I'm sorry. I didn't think of it like property. I thought it was our story. I was trying to say thank you for everything you've been through. I wanted it to count. If you want the money, take it. I'll share it with you. All of it, okay? Not money, I said to him quietly, because if I yelled I knew I would say something I couldn't possibly undo. It's about the part of me that I showed you because you were you. And you turned something with eyes on it into it that I did not consent to. I do know, she said, like she wanted to be given credit for knowing. I do know. I messed up. Ava, please. Please don't let this be the thing that this is the thing, I said, and I lost my voice. I don't know how to pretend it's not. We didn't talk for 2 weeks. Losing an arm and bumping into it everywhere. I was at the park and I saw her car and I went home the long way around. Her hoodie remained in my closet and I just didn't feel like I had the emotional fortitude to mail it or burn it, so I put it in a grocery bag and shoved it under my bed like a teenager with contraband. I found her bobby pins on my bathroom sink and sat on the floor and cried over a metal string that's lighter than a whisper. My mom approached me, wary, and asked, "Are you all right?" I told her I'd be okay. It was a falsehood that I was speaking on credit in hope that I might pay it back later. I thought about emailing the Caldwell Foundation. I actually typed something. Dear committee, I'm writing to inform you that the essay inventory includes experiences, not the writers. I stopped. I gazed at the screen and saw how small I would seem if I sent it and turned this into a public argument where commentators took a side like it was a game of football. I closed my laptop. I started taking midnight drives, which is what I do when my body doesn't know where to go. I'd end up at the old school, playground ghosty lit up, swings creaking in the dark like they missed us. I drove by her house one night and sat outside her house and watched the kitchen window. Her mom came by, stacking dishes. I could envision Lena's explanation in my head, how she'd excuse herself, how she'd expect to be forgiven, how they'd determine I was blowing something out of proportion that was merely art. The thing is, I understand needing to be heard so desperately that you'd steal another's skin if you thought it would be warmer. I understand needing the value of your pain to be higher than pain. But I understand what it is to discover the person you've shared your tales with will then turn around and put them out on parade without even asking if you're ready to be a parade route. When she finally materialized on my doorstep, I decided I would slam it shut. I decided I would scream. I opened it instead and leaned my forehead against the door frame because I was to my very bones tired. She stood in front of me with one hand white-knuckled around an envelope, cheeks wet, hair in that same misshapen ponytail from our childhood. It destroyed me how soft she looked. She extended the envelope. It's half. I didn't do it. Lena, I'm going to email Caldwell, she said in a rush. I'm going to tell her I misrepresented. I'll tell her that I made a mistake. I'll tell her to take my name off their site at least. You can do that, I said. But it won't fix this. She nodded, as though she'd been holding her breath for my confirmation, so she could now breathe a sigh of relief. I know. She was staring at my sneakers. Do you remember when we buried the time capsule? We wrote what we thought our lives would be like when we were 25. I had scotch taped mine shut, of course. I had told her I was going to have a balcony and a dog. I think she might have mentioned having been the first woman to lead something nobody thought girls led. She sat in front of me and said, I thought we were the same person. We're not, I said to her. It was a little harsher than I'd intended in my head. We're not the same. That was the point. She snuffled her nose on the back of her hand like we were middle school again. I don't know how to be without you. It should have softened me. It did. But I also felt my back straighten. I don't know how to be with someone who thinks that my life is their project. She swallowed. She nodded. I watched her decide not to fight me on that. She tucked the envelope under her arm as well. If you ever need. She started and stopped. I'm sorry, she said, and she left. Everyone thinks endings happen at the same time. They don't. They happen in pieces. They happen in the way you go back to typing her name and delete it. They happen in the way you shove the hoodie that's not yours into the bag and bring it, finally, to her front door when you know she's likely not home. They happen when you are hearing a song that you both liked and let yourself listen to it through, no skipping. They happen at 12:41 a.m. on the kitchen floor when you promise to say it out loud. I did write an essay. Not on her. On me, and not the inventory essay. Something small and true that did not make me a hero. I sent it to a venue that had no prize money, just a small corner of the internet where words reside. They printed it. I didn't share it with anyone. It wasn't about being noticed. It was about leaving something of mine somewhere and saying, this is mine and I get to leave it there. Lena wrote to the foundation. They took down the essay from their website. They didn't take back the money. They don't have a form to complain about emotional theft. People forget. The town forgot. New postings, new comments. We graduated. We posed for our pictures in our caps apart. She attended a school 3 hours away. I lingered for a while. Distance came like the weather. Not human, but it alters everything. Sometimes I recall the evening when she was 13 and she sat with me on my porch and we swatted at mosquitoes and I told her the origin of this story. How she didn't falter then. How she kept me going by staying. That was fact. I can hold that in one fist and the things she did in the other. Both are possible. She loved me and she deceived me. Both are possible. I will always be grateful and I will never forgive this. If you have someone you've poured everything into, your late nights, your laugh, the secret shape of your pain, I hope they respect it. And if they do not, I hope you keep in mind, your story is not currency. It is not raw material for someone else's success. Your story is yours, even when it touches another person's life, even when they were there for the worst parts, even when you love them. Especially then. I stopped waiting for her to call. I stopped waiting for me to bump into her at the grocery store and have that movie moment where everything gets wrapped up in an apology hug. Life isn't a neat third act. Life is me learning how to cook spaghetti without burning it, for real this time. Life is my apartment, tiny but mine, where the fridge hums like it's tired in a way that makes me smile instead of flinch. Life is my mom calling me on Sundays, toiling away, asking what I want to be when I grow up, even though technically I already am. Sometimes the streetlights vibrate differently, and I'll think about our hopscotch on the sidewalk with chalk, and I'll miss who we were. Missing is not synonymous with having made the wrong choice. It means I'm human. It means I'm still here. There's a photograph on my dresser, us at the age of 12, dripping hair from the community pool, popsicle sticks still adhered to our legs. She's laughing with her whole face. I'm witnessing her laugh. I stand sometimes in the morning and have my thumb make contact with the glass for a second as if I'm blessing two specters. Then I take my keys, I depart, I go live life where I'm my own. If you ever experienced anything similar to this, I'd love to hear your opinions in the comments. And if this story dropped on you even partially, don't forget to like, subscribe, and enable that bell.